Hey everyone, welcome back for another campaign diary. Yeah, this one's going to be also very kind of fast-paced. We're just going to kind of keep going, and again, there's going to be kind of minimal editing because right now it is Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and I have to leave for work here in about 15 minutes. And so I don't have much time, and I want to be able to, be able to do this with minimal efforts. That way I can basically take this shot when I come home from work tonight at 11. Be able to put it onto editor and edit it real fast, and be able to complete and upload it, set it upload to overnight for Thursday when I release it. So I want to do that, so therefore this one's gonna be fairly short. So let's get right down to work. When we last left our heroes, you'll remember they had we'd had a bad session. We had some things go wrong, a lot of it on my part, and how I did some poor storytelling elements, and how things were just kind of awkward. When we started the last session, they were at and killed one of the dwarven halls where they had ran into some political stuff. They found out that the hammer they had retrieved from the dungeon, from the phylactery layer, was actually in fact an important artifact in the government and political realms of the dwarves. And they found out they were then approached by a small dwarf who asked them to come with him to one of the other capitals, one of the other halls of the dwarves, to basically give this hammer, this symbol of authority, the hammer of Veruk, over to that Veruk, that chief of that hall, Fleetfoot, to help solidify his reign. And the party, fortunately, was willing to do it. However, I was trying to create some political strife, so I did some things. And since Braden wasn't there, but his character had the hammer, it made things awkward. Things didn't go well, but fortunately the players were fairly forgiving. They worked with me. Things went well. Really kind of after, towards the end, things kind of started to pick up. But fortunately, this session went a lot better. And when we started this session, the players had reached the city of Tet, this other hall where Fleetfoot was. We started off with Dunlil, the little dwarf who had asked them to help. He took them over and had them meet Fleetfoot, this half-halfling, half-dwarf Veruk. And basically he said, hey, awesome that you guys have the hammer. Now, will you guys do me a favor and go talk to... Oh, sorry, shoot. I made a complete mistake. No, Dunlil's dead. If you guys have watched the last episode, which hopefully you have, yeah, Dunlil's dead. I am recording this almost a month after I recorded the last episode. I had a bunch stockpiled with, the stuff that was going on, with the weird catch-ups. And so it's been almost a month and a half, I think, since I actually filmed last week's episode. And I'm now sitting here oh shoot, I gotta film this week's episode. So that happened. So yeah, Dunlil's dead. So they make it to Tet, but they walk up and they basically say, "Hey, Dunlil sent us. We have the hammer." And the guards are like, let them come in." And they meet with Fleetfoot, and he's like, "Hey, now that I have the hammer, that's awesome, but I need you guys to now go talk to the various families, some of the various kind of prominent figures in the city." Now, this was an awesome chance for me. It allowed me to kind of use some political stuff. I actually created an entire political system. I explained, I had Fleetfoot kind of in place at the DM explain things like, hey, there is there's a council of trees, which is basically kind of the council of elders for the hall, and they're the ones who make all the decisions, or at least they advise the decisions that Fleetfoot makes, and they also are the ones who will, who are kind of the ones who give support or can cause dissension. So he basically said, hey, I need you to go talk to the leaders. Here's a couple of names. Go find these people in the city. Go talk to them and let them know that I have this hammer, and a lot of them should be able to, will kind of, digress and let me take over and do my job now. And the players were all like, okay, sure. So they started doing stuff. Now, this is where things got a little rough. At the time, all we had was Hazel, Sam, Danny, and Esther. With Sonia and Braden, of course, and Sydney being unavailable. So, but what I want to do is I want to make it so, languages was an actual thing. So I said, okay, only the characters who are going to be able to speak Dwarvish are actually going to be able to do anything, which at the time was just Sam and Hazel. So basically it was Hazel and Sam talking to these people, and Danny and Esther were kind of, bored and just sitting there and on their phones. And I wanted to try and avoid that, but I felt this was what I needed to do. It also gave Hazel and Sam chances to kind of, take front and center stage by being the ones to do all the negotiating. And they went about the party and talked to a couple of family members. They talked to, 2 places. And, one side was very still opposed to Fleetfoot, even with the hammer. They were very much like, hey, no, we should be in charge. And he's not a true dwarf. Whatever, screw the fact that he's got this hammer, we won't follow him. But one of the other families was a little more receptive. He was kind of like, hey, I'm a little more dependent on some of the other families though, but I at least will respect the authority. And at that point, I then dropped something on the players. As they leave, I had a messenger appear. After talking to two families, the messenger shows up and it basically explains, Fleetfoot is dead. And the players were like, what? Are you serious? What? Why? How? And they just said, someone came in, assassinated him. And they're like, okay. And then they're like, oh crap. We left a hammer with him. And they had. When they were, after talking to Fleetfoot, one thing he said was like, hey, can I hang on to the hammer? You guys are going to be trapezing, around the city, going to some homes that aren't super friendly to me. Let's not have my symbol of authority go with you guys into hostile territory. And they're like, yeah, good idea. Well, then he gets killed, and they're like, crap, the hammer's gone too. And the messenger's like, yeah, exactly, the hammer's gone, Fleetfoot's dead. And everyone's like, shoot, well, now what? Well, the messenger explained, well, okay, now the Council of Trees, the Council of Elders, is going to have to elect a new Veruk. And they're like, okay. And they're like, what do we do? They said, well, the messenger explains, hey, my name's actually Egret. I'm actually the nephew to Fleetfoot. I'm next in line kind of to his family. I'm the next elder, basically. Egren's fairly young, but he's still the next one in charge. And so the players are like, okay, and Egren kind of says, hey, I respect you. I respect what you guys are doing. I liked my uncle. I think my uncle stood for a lot of great things. It's a shame that he's dead. Will you guys kind of support me in his stead? And the players were all like, yeah, that's fair. Egren was nice to them. He was very good, trying to think of the word. He was very kind of polite with them, despite the fact that they're outsiders, and many of them are elves, for instance. And he talked to them and he said, hey, great. Now, will you guys kind of go about, talk to some of these other families and kind of tell them, hey, Egren's now taking Fleetfoot's place. Please support Egren. And the players did that. They talked to a couple more families, and after that, Egren showed up again. He's like, hey guys, why don't you come with me? We're going to go to the Council of the Trees. And they went into the castle and they met in this building. And this is where things were a little harder for me. Because I had planned this all out, I knew every single family, what they wanted, who they would stand with. And basically it turned into the players sitting there and listening to me talk through about 5 different voices for about 5 different characters, carrying on a massively complex conversation. And it was hard to do. That was tough. I do not recommend doing it unless you are 1, a great actor, 2, have lots of experience, and 3, you gotta be just playing crazy. It didn't go perfectly, but the point got across. The players were able to realize what was going on. I made very sure to be very explicit with what was the different NPCs were thinking. That way the players could understand it more, it would be a little more understandable for them. And it finally came down to just after all these families different kind of compete, well, who's going to side with who and who wants what, and Egren kind of saying, hey, I'll help you guys, but one of the other family members was like, hey, I want to also vie for the throne, and very kind of this very political meeting, very kind of intertwining and complex, and the players were all like, wow, this is, very interesting, very kind of hard to understand, very complex, but I could tell they were fascinated by this, and finally I just had to come down to a vote, and someone's like, oh, it's going to vote? How many people are there? And I'm like, oh, there's I think I said 26. I think I said there was 26 people. And I'm like, all right, all in favor of this other guy. And I said, 12 stand up. And they sit down. And I said, and one of the other dwarves all in favor of Egren. And I said, 14 stand up. And the players, I could just see a little bit of relaxation. They weren't cheering, but they were like, okay, Egren's in charge now. Awesome. And when the players were like, so does that mean Egren won? So I was like, yeah, Egren is now the new Veruk. He's the new chief. And people are like, awesome. And, Egren comes up and he's like, hey, thank you guys for all your help. And they're like, sure, no problem. And he's like, hey, I have one thing I would like you guys to do. Now that you guys have helped me, what can I do to help you? And they're like, well, we do want to, need to get back to you. He's like, actually, it sounds perfect. If you guys want to get back to your old continent, I'll help you. What I need you guys to do is I need you guys to go and retrieve the hammer. And they're like, okay, well, retrieve it where? And Egren explains, well, our spies report that actually the assassins were a group of drow. Now, we know there's a drow fortress. If you go follow some of the tunnels that lead underneath Tet, there is a drow fortress down there, and we believe that's where they're holed up. However, they also not only killed Fleetfoot and took the hammer, they also took basically the court wizard, basically. He's actually a sorcerer, and He's like, he's a dragonborn. His name is Razalax. I want you guys to go and retrieve him. And if you retrieve him, I'll charter a ship for you. And if you guys can also get the hammer for me, then I will have the authority to basically command one of the ships to take you guys across the ocean to your continent. And the players are like, sold. And he's like, awesome. He's like, oh, here's a map. He gave them a map of the tunnels. And he's like, and I had, I took a map and I, drew a couple of routes, and I wanted to give the players some choice. So there was like 3 different routes they could have taken that all, start at point A and end at point B, but they could have split off. And I wrote down like, hidden, like, invisible voices on one route, and like, then it was like slick. And I wrote like, mushroom men and, brain squid on another. There was like, I had a couple things on like the other route. I had like, hey, warning, like, Duragar. There was one thing that was like, chasm. All these different things that, kind of warnings, kind of, hey, this is kind of what, this is a map. These are people, they've made notes of where stuff is, what to look out for. And I gave the players a chance to kind of say, okay, what do we want to face? Now, I had a second map that also had some other things that were in there, some other obstacles that would show up, things that weren't on the map because they weren't always there. For instance, I had like a purple worm. Down one of the paths, if they took the path, they would have to face a purple worm, which I felt they could probably pretty competently handle, even at their level, even at like level 7 or 8, I think they were at the time. And they're like, all right, and they took the map and they went down to tunnels and they said, all right, we'll take this path. And here we had 2 encounters. They take the one path, they take this middle passage, because they see hidden voice, like invisible voices. They're like, that sounds like mind flayers to us. And I was like, shoot, that's mind flayers. And it was slick. They're like, wonder what slick is. Well, maybe we'll come back up. Maybe we'll come up this way and find out what slick is. They're like, and we definitely want to avoid the Duragar. So we'll take mushroom men and brain squid, whatever the heck those are. And mushroom men, one of the guys, Danny, he was like, I think that's like myconids, but I'm not quite sure. And they went down, and sure enough, they run into a bunch of myconids, and it was a lot of fun because I'm rolling a bunch. They have to roll a bunch of saves, to either get paralyzed or stunned, or even attack one of their allies a couple times. And finally, Danny just says, "I fireball the place. I fireball the entire tunnel." And I had explained to him the tunnel wasn't very big, so when he says I fireball it, it meant he basically consumes everybody in a bunch of fire. And everyone makes their saves, and he rolls damage. And he kills all the myconids, but ends up damaging most of the party. And they're like, all right, at which point they said, all right, we'll take a rest. And we took a quick break. We came back, and they're like, all right, we got 30 minutes left. Let's keep going. And then they run to the brain squid, and that was a fun one. I threw basically just a bunch of these grell, they're called. They're like, they're basically giant brains with a bunch of tentacles and a beak. And I was mostly flipping through the monster manual, saying, okay, what would be some fun stuff to throw at the guys, throw at the party? Some stuff that's odd and unusual. And this one I felt, they're not super powerful individually, but they do come in swarms. And I felt it'd be fun to throw a half a dozen to a dozen. So I threw basically a dozen brain squid, a bunch of these grell at them, and they all fought. And the problem is they get 2 attacks, and they get to grapple you, and then they deal more damage. And at 2 attacks times about 12 to 24 attacks, people are going to get hit. And people did get hit. People took a lot of damage. But what I did is I realized, oh shoot, this is too tough. So what I did is admittedly, I lowered the HP of each grell. So it took only 1 or 2 hits. And not that they had super high AC in the first place. So they were fairly easy to hit, fairly easy to kill. And so after that, it was, really once they kind of, it took a little bit, but they did kind of get going. Once they got the ball rolling and started killing more and more grell, they really started dropping even faster and faster. And it got done. They're like, all right, done for the session. Just ate lunch. So that's more or less what happened. The big highlight of this session was really the political stuff that was going on. I think the players enjoyed it. It was fairly complex, and it was a lot of fun to create, but to act out is a lot more difficult. So try and see if you can sometimes maybe pawn it off, or I would not just try and do it all on your own if you're the DM. Way too much work to perform it all. So either way, now they're in the tunnels, and now they're on their way to retrieve the hammer, retrieve Razalax, and get a ship home to their old land. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully I'll have the next one will be a little more prepared, so I'll have a little more time. In the meanwhile, stay cool.